Hey guys, this is going to be a serious video. I've discovered something online that really challenges my worldview and really makes me realize that I've been living a lie for most of these years. I'm talking about a video that completely disproves evolution. Just kidding, this video is fucking ridiculous, but I think it's hilarious. The kid goes through and tries to explain to people why evolution is a false idea, and it's interesting because he uses his own worldview to justify his own worldview, which makes for a lot of fun. So let's jump right into it and enjoy the cringe.
Hello again. I'm just going to ask you a question. Do you believe that you came from goo, then to the zoo, then to you? That's simply not true. And I'm going to try and prove that to you. It's a little-known fact that what you believe determines how you act. And if you believe that you came from a monkey, doesn't that give you permission to act like one too?
So that's his opening line. This is an example of how he is going to disprove evolution. Does anyone really believe that we came from goo, and then went to a zoo, and then came to be people? It seems like that if we went from goo to a zoo, someone had been around to make people before make the zoo. I don't know. And his idea that, well, if we came from monkeys, we have a right to act like monkeys, right? First of all, this is the most aggravating argument in people that try and disprove evolution. No one in the scientific community, no one believes that we came from monkeys. No one believes that, and I hear this argument all the time, well, if we came from apes, then why aren't apes still evolving into people? No one is saying that we came from modern apes that we see around us today. We had a common ancestor. We're on the same branch of the tree as monkeys are. No one's saying that we came from apes. And even if we did, that doesn't give you a right to act like an ape.
It wasn't very many years ago that the Ten Commandments could be found in virtually every single school in America. And now, you won't find them anywhere. Why is that? Well, I'll tell you why. It's because people do not want to be held accountable to their creator, and they'd rather believe that they came from monkeys and can act like animals. And that's why you have kids shooting up their schools, and you have kids doing drugs, and the whole society is falling apart because everyone believes that they came from monkeys, which came from earthworms, which came from slime.
We've solved it. This guy has solved it. Something that we've been fighting for 100 years. He's solved the drug problem, and the answer is just give them more Jesus, and they'll stop doing drugs. And this argument that somehow the secular society is taking the Ten Commandments and other religious artifacts out of schools and public buildings because we're all Satanists or something, and we want to bury this creator underneath a load of dirt. It's flawed for a number of reasons. First of all, we're taking them out of public buildings and schools because we now are beginning to recognize that this country is supposed to be a secular country. Our government is supposed to have a separation of church and state. That's the point. And as much as the Christian community doesn't want to acknowledge that, it's in our founding documents. And the idea that somehow atheists are taking artifacts from public buildings and schools because we don't want to acknowledge our creator or we don't want to be bound by our creator is again inherently flawed. Atheists don't believe in a God, so there is no creator to not acknowledge. And this idea that people not having Jesus, people not having God is what's causing all of these school shootings or mass shootings is ridiculous, because the majority of these shootings are driven by religion, right? By religious extremists. Look at George Tiller. He was shot in his church, while he was in church, by some other Christian extremist. This guy doesn't get more wrong than that. Actually, he does get more wrong than that, but that was a pretty stupid point.
Some people believe that Charles Darwin started the theory of evolution. Actually, it was Satan in the Garden of Eden. Satan told Eve that she could be like God. And that's what people believe today. They believe they started as an earthworm, and that earthworm, or the first single-celled organism, evolved into a fish or some amoeba or something, and that turned into monkeys eventually, and that turned into humans, and we're evolving and getting stronger and bigger and better. And
I don't understand it. I don't know anyone that believes that we came from earthworms to people directly. Invertebrates, yes, but earthworms specifically, I just don't get. There are millions of invertebrates that he could have picked for this example, or he could have just said the word invertebrates. But for some reason, he's harping on earthworms. And Charlie Darwin? That's interesting. I didn't realize that this guy and Charles Darwin were best friends. And the thing that bothers me most about this video, and it's the thing that bothers me most about fundamentalist Christians, is that he's using his own worldview to justify his worldview. Well, evolution is a lie. How do we know that? Because Satan created it. How do we know Satan created it? Because it's in the Bible. I don't believe in your Bible. I don't believe in some book that was written 2,500 years ago by some uneducated, unscientific people. So what other evidence do you have besides your Bible to justify that evolution is a lie? Because at this point, that's all I'm hearing from you is, well, God told us so. I don't believe in your God. So give me some tangible evidence or some thoughtful argument that proves that evolution is a lie. Because otherwise, this is an exercise in futility, and I should just go read the Bible myself. I don't need you to read it for me. So now he's going to do this quiz, and it is an airtight quiz. It is foolproof. If you believe in evolution, even after all the things that he said in the beginning, this will change your mind. I'm not going to lie, I laughed really, really hard when I saw this test. And I shouldn't laugh, because it is sad. It's sad that this individual really believes the crap that he's spewing out.
Evolutionists have the severe misfortune of believing that they are related to every other form of life on the planet. So, we're going to do a little mental exercise and see if you can figure this out.
Oh, good, we're done.
Because evolution is a lie, they need to back it up with likewise lies. Adolf Hitler once said, "Let me control the textbooks and I will control the state."
That smile is one of the creepiest things that I've seen in a really long time, and it makes me really uncomfortable on the inside. But then he immediately jumps into hyperbole and brings up the Hitler argument. And I am so sick of seeing the Hitler argument on both sides. It's an extreme, it's a ridiculous extreme, and it's just a way of justifying your argument when you really have no underlying argument. So this quote about, "Let me control the textbooks and I will control the state." What about Texas? This is a frequent battle in our country. Texas is the largest textbook buyer in the country, and because they're so large, they have an inordinate amount of influence. So a lot of the textbooks that we get are edited and approved by the Texas school districts. So we end up getting actually textbooks that are closer to creationism than they would be if states bought them individually. So this idea that somehow the liberal atheist society is trying to control your textbooks is patently wrong. And if you look at the actual evidence, it's Texas, a very creationist, very Christian state, that's controlling the production of our textbooks.
Evolutionists will claim that they can use the fossil record to determine what evolved from what. Allow me to demonstrate what an evolutionist would claim to be a successful diagram in showing the evolution of a horse. Okay, now allow me to show you the evolution of cutlery.
So many logical fallacies, The cutlery example, I'm not quite sure what point he was trying to make. I think the idea was that the horse evolution looked a lot similar to him just randomly lining up cutlery in a line, but the cutlery was designed by our hands, and we transformed them to the purpose that we needed, in the same way that nature transformed the horse into the animal it is today through natural selection. This fork and spoon example, we can actually do this, right? Like if you take animals now, and that's part of what Charles Darwin was talking about in his theory. If you take animals that you have now, we can naturally select traits that we think are beneficial. Look at dogs. All the speciation of dogs, most of it occurred because we were trying to get dogs to do specific things. So if we were trying to get dogs to protect sheep, we would selectively breed the dogs that showed the most chance of being able to protect sheep. Now, we do this in a very short amount of time because we control the reproductive system, but evolution does it in a very long form of time.
If you believe that you were unintelligently designed, that there was no intelligent hand in your creation, then that means you are a biological machine, a slave to chemical reactions in your brain, which means you can't trust your thoughts.
So he's starting off here with a lot of assumptions, and to a certain extent he's right about some things. So the chemicals in our body, hormones, brain chemistry, genetics, they do sort of control some elements of our life, right? but he's talking specifically about brain chemistry. And chemicals in your brain can control things like emotions. We see this in manic depressive patients or people with extreme anxiety. A lot of times those chemicals in the brain can control the way you feel. And that's why you need medication to re-level those chemicals. But most of the time they don't affect consciousness. You are still a rational thinking human being who can trust your own thoughts.
You know, I've done a lot of talking about things such as demons and Satan, and they can be pretty scary, but some people pass them off as fairy tales. Yes, I admit, modern-day media has made a mockery of such things, treating them lightly as if they're nothing more than cartoon characters, which I believe is part of Satan's deception so that we don't take this seriously. So, allow me to show you a reason to take it seriously. I'm now going to open a program called Google Earth. Perhaps some of you have heard of it. It is a satellite scan of the entire globe, and you can pretty much pinpoint your house on this program. But I'm not going to find my house, I'm going to find the White House. Hold on a second. You know, I'm not lying to you, that is the White House, okay? So, tell me if you notice anything. Do you see it? Now, if that doesn't concern you, if you've just passed that off as a small coincidence, tell me, how is it the most important building in the entire world is at the bottom of a giant Satan pentagram?
I really think you ought to be a spokesman for Google Earth, because that is one of the best descriptions of Google Earth I've ever heard, and it's probably the only thing that makes sense in this entire video. So he goes to Google Earth and he types in the White House and zooms in on DC and tries to convince us that there's actually a hidden pentagram located somewhere in DC. But if you look at the picture here, you can actually see that if you draw the lines, it doesn't make a pentagram. First of all, the points don't meet at the White House. There is no street that runs through the White House, so they're just arbitrarily putting a blunt point on the bottom of the star. And if you're going to make the pentagram, you have to draw it through places where there is no street. You can see from the photo here that if you follow the streets, it doesn't look like a pentagram. It doesn't look like anything. It just looks sloppy. There is no pentagram in Washington, D.C., and even if there was, it wouldn't be surprising considering Freemasons built most of the country at that time. So they may have included Masonic symbols in the design of most cities or buildings. And that doesn't mean that they were calling Satan or sacrificing to Satan. And even if it did, he's not real. If you want to try and do magic, if you want to try and be a Satanist, it's fine. It's not going to work. It's a fantasy, it's a fallacy, it's not going to work. So even if they put a big giant pentagram in the middle of it, they could put an upside down cross. It doesn't matter. It's not going to do anything.
The children of today are the future of tomorrow, and if they're being taught that they came from monkeys, expect this world to go to the zoo.
Anyway, so he finishes up this video basically calling everybody in the United States government Satanists, and that somehow Satan has controlled the whole country this whole time, and we're all idiots and sheep. And he does use the zoo analogy one more time at the end of the video, and I appreciate the consistency, but he says this whole country is going to go to the zoo. Anyway, that's the video. This guy's clearly an idiot, but the reason I pick videos like this is because it's sad to me. There are people that really believe this stuff and really propagate this stuff and get other people to believe this stuff. There are people in my family that would believe this kind of thing, and I feel like it's all of our duty to find this bullshit and call it out and try and bring the country back, the world back to a rational place. Because if we don't, he's right, we'll go to the zoo. Whatever the hell that means. Anyway, if you like this video, please hit the subscribe button, smash the like button, share the video everywhere. Really helps me out. Leave some comments down below. What would you like to see out of this channel? What would you like to see me do? I post videos again every Monday, so please come back, find another one, and I will see you next time.